All right, Tim, it's brutal out there. We keep talking about this, but it's getting like actually serious. Like rates are now over 8%.
Dude, we reached our quota, man. What did we say last year in January? They were going to hit?
We said that last June. We said that a year and a half ago that they were going to hit 8% by the beginning of next year. And I think we're coming a little early. We got an early Christmas. So let's do a new thing, Tim, where we're going to try to go over this whole topic of interest rates.
Done.
But we tend to chat a lot, and we're going to keep it at 5 minutes. All right, so I'm going to set this timer, and then we're going to each keep an eye on it and try to keep this down. So,
Done.
Tim, I would say this is a serious situation. The housing market is already, in my opinion, it's being crushed. The cost of housing is now unbearable for many people. It is now the highest on a percentage basis that it's been in our lifetime, and rates are going up, meaning that it's getting worse. So what are your thoughts about this reality that we're in, and is everybody telling us the truth? Like, what's the reality of the housing market?
So I think you nailed it right there. I think three things occur. Number one, I think the government is misleading us with some of the reports they've come out. Let's face it, they want to project as positive and as rosy as a situation as occurs. We all think that we're kind of in a recession. That's proven by our grocery baskets. Let's call it what it is, man. That's number one, right? Number two, more importantly, the housing industry is definitely taking a check, but I think part of that is a step back in reality because we were so aggressive on prices going up and going up and going up. And now suddenly they're starting to flatten out. So I think it's more of a flattening curve. And I think it's becoming, ready for this one, more of an equal market, buyer and sellers, getting a little closing help, like the olden days, right? We had a little negotiation on the price.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that. Now, are houses affordable? It is rough out there. There's no question about it. So it's rough from that standpoint. Interest have gone up. But here's the key. You buy today, you're going to be in the advantage because when the rates do come down, it's going to be more competitive, number one, right? And prices are going to go right back going up.
Yeah, we've had this discussion about whether or not it's a good time to buy a house. Everybody's situation is individualized. I would say comparing a good time to buy a house now versus waiting, we've had this discussion. I don't think there's any good argument to make that says next year's going to be better than this year as far as like what happens. Like, let's say you buy a house, you have a high interest rate, and rates come down, you're still going to be there. The only scenario in which waiting would be better is if house prices came down significantly. I don't see that. I feel like as rates get over 8%, the pressure on the market, especially in the wintertime, is going to be heavy, and we're not going to see like a drastic decline in house prices. But what we're going to see is when somebody chooses not to buy a house, the natural reaction is to lower the price, and I think that people are just not out in the way that they used to be. We finally chased off a lot of the buyers. We're not seeing tons of showings. We're not seeing tons of offers. So
I think sellers are going to pull back.
Yeah.
They're going to say, you know what, scrap this. I'm taking it off the market, number one. I think buyers are going to hold back and say, you know what, scrap this. I'm going to renew my rent for another year, number two. And then, ready for this one? It's also seasonal, Brian. October normally slows down.
No, I know, but I'm saying like what is a slow market is now an extremely slow market, and I think what is
only from the perspective of the last 3 years. And
that's
where I would call it back.
Well, if we'd have to look at the numbers versus 2016 maybe.
Okay, I'm
17.
Go back to 2009.
Well, that was
another extreme year.
Right.
I mean, we don't know it. And here's the problem. Here's the factors involved. We just had, unfortunately, the Israel-Palestinian conflict. Dude, that's going to have some major impacts on the marketplace. Meanwhile, I think people out on the street, honestly, they're spending their savings. They're out there. And then at the same time, they don't realize it. They look at the credit cards. We talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
Credit card rates as high as 30%, Brian.
Let's talk about the economy on the next video. Let's finish up. We got 1 minute left. We're trying to keep to our time limit of 5 minutes.
You got it, man.
Interest rates are you saying now they're over 8%?
Over 8%. Yeah, we're done.
Yeah. Okay, and what do you predict the Fed will do for the rest of the year and rates will do for the rest of the year?
Yeah, great question. I think, quite honestly, and this is kind of insane, but Feds are going to raise the rates one more time. They're going to raise it a quarter because they still see signs of inflation, and they're going to say, "Hey, this is going to be it. We don't need to do it anymore." They're going to raise rates a quarter.
They kind of said that already a couple times, and they keep kind of going back on it. So So even if they do raise rates, is that automatically going to raise interest rates for mortgages?
Unfortunately, it is having the same effect. The 10-year is going up, the 2-year is still moving up. I mean, it's kind of wild to watch where rates are going, and it's kind of like, just hold on tight, man. You got it.
Not good news, Tim. It's hard to deliver. It's hard to deliver that message without having some little bit of discouragement. Rates are now past 8%. House prices at an all-time high. It's a little bit brutal out there, Tim. Go ahead and say it.
But you know what? There's some silver lining at the very end, which means prices will finally stop escalating as far as they've gone. Number one. Number two, there's closing assistance. There's more competition opportunities. And then the last piece, Brian, is we're seeing a lot of buyers buying houses wholesale. And I think that should be a topic we should talk about in the future.
All right, good. We kept it to under 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's wrap, Tim. Good talking to you.
Thanks, man.